In this video, I will explain the basic concepts of graphing a line on the xy plane. The linear equation for such a graph is y equals mx plus b, where x and y are values that change in order to satisfy the given equation. The m, which is the coefficient before x, is the slope of the equation. A high value for m would be a very steep slope, which would be like this. And a low value for m would be a less steep slope, which might look something like this. M is also calculated by saying rise over run, which is also the change in y divided by the change in x. And the last part of the equation, b, is the y-intercept, which tells you where it crosses the y-axis at any given point. Let's go through some examples of this graph here. The first example I have is y equals x. This is one of the most basic graphs because no matter where you are on the graph, both the values will be equal to each other. So we should write some coordinates for this graph. Well, we know 0, 0, the origin, would be on this graph. We could also say that 5, 5, or 3, 3, or 1, 1, any line that is the same, any point that is the same for both would be on the graph. So let's graph 5, 5 up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here is what y equals x looks like. And it goes all the way here for the negative side too. So now that we have graphed y equals x, we should graph y equals 2x. The only difference is that this is a much steeper, like I said earlier, it is a steeper slope because the m, also known as the 2 right here, is a much higher value than just 1. So how we would graph this, we could also put some more points here. We know that 0, 0 would work for this equation because if you plugged in 0 for both numbers, it would work. So 0 will work there. What would happen if we said x was equal to 2? Well, 2 times 2 would be 4. So we know that we should graph 2, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right there. And you only need to graph 2 different points in order to draw a line here. So now let's draw this line. As you can see, it is a much steeper line than the first one. Now we should do the third line right here, which is different, you'll notice, because it has a plus 2 added, which I explained earlier is the y-intercept. All this means is that the graph is shifted 2 extra steps above that. So first we should plug in a point. Let's say if we had x equal to 0, we could see that y would be 2. So let's graph 0, 2. That should be right there. Now, I need to emphasize rise over run. We can graph rise over run, which would be 3 divided by 2, like this. You go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and you go over 2, 1, 2. That should be right there. So we didn't actually have to find out what point that was. All we had to do was go up 3 and over 2. So here is this line. I apologize for my poor skills in graphing, but that is the line. You'll notice it is not as steep as the second line I drew, but it is more steeper than the first line I drew. That is because it is in between those two values. So let's graph the fourth and final graph we have here, which is y equals negative x. As you notice, these slopes are all facing the same way because they are positive. A negative slope would be this way. So it should be just like the first one, but let's put in a few numbers out here. We could say 0, 0 again, because that would work for both. So what if x was 2? Well, negative 2 equals negative 2. So y should be negative 2. So let's graph this. 1, 2. Over 2, down 2, 1, 2. That should be about right there. And you'll see if I connect the dots, it does a graph just like that. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment or message me. Thank you.